Hello, welcome back to not welcome back. That's not how welcome back works. This is the first episode. Let's try that again. Hello, welcome back to fuck. It is not welcome back. You know what? Fuck it. It's staying in. Welcome to Director in Development. I'm your Director in Development, Matthew Pelton. Now, what is a Director in Development and who is the Director in Development? All you know is my name and that I cannot follow a script to save my fucking life. Yeah, I'm Matthew Pelton and I want to be a film director. I love watching movies. I love making movies. It's always been my passion since I was as long as I can remember. You know, my dad always took me to the movies, and since then I've had an obsession with movies and movie making, and I want to be a film director. So for college, I went to Emerson College in Boston, and I got a bachelor's in media arts production, which, by the way, is just a very fancy way of saying film degree. It just sounds cooler on like a resume or a portfolio, media arts production. But if you know, you know. I am currently attending LMU, which is Loyola Marymount University, which, by the way, it's almost taking me a year just to get the name of that fucking school right. But I now go to LMU and I'm pursuing a master's also in film directing. So that's kind of my background. I've made a couple short films so far, which we'll kind of get into later in this episode. So you know a little bit about me and my journey in filmmaking up to this point, up to Director in Development. And then from this episode on, we'll kind of be documenting the rest of this journey. I'm from the East Coast. I was born in New Jersey, raised in New Jersey and Connecticut. I literally have East Coast in my DNA. Like at one point, I think it was like a Christmas gift, I got a DNA test and my family has no idea where we're from. I asked my mom once, I'm like, hey, do you know where our side of the family's from? And she's like, yeah, it's just been lost to time. So I turned to my dad. I was like, hey, do you know where our side of the family's from? And he's like, I thought we were Native American once when I was a kid, but turns out that wasn't true. And it's just been lost. Nobody knows. So I took a DNA test, and not only were we the most boring white European family you can imagine, it gave us where we have been in the United States. And we are so East Coast that since we moved here on like the fucking Mayflower, we have never left Connecticut, New Jersey, or New York. And like a little bit of Maryland. But that's it. My whole family's been the East Coast. I want to be a filmmaker so bad that I broke the now like 200-year-long tradition of living in the East Coast, and I moved to LA, not only to attend LMU, but to try to break into this industry and to try to become a big narrative director. Like the name Matthew Pelton, I want it to be alongside Steven Spielberg, Stanley Kubrick, Quentin Tarantino, Matthew Pelton. It just sounds right, doesn't it? Doesn't it just feel right when you say it out loud? So yes, I'm trying to break into this industry. I want to follow my dreams of just directing movies and making movies and just fully having my life in Hollywood and the movie system. And the biggest goal I have, and the whole point of this podcast that you're listening to right now, is I want to direct a Marvel movie. I love Marvel movies. I know it's like a quote unquote film bro. I'm not supposed to say that. There's kind of like, if you're a big movie guy, you kind of look down on the Marvel movies. They're like Disney corporate, whatever. I love them. I grew up with them. I've watched every Disney Plus show. I've watched every Marvel short. I've seen every single movie like 4 or 5 times at this point. So I want to direct a Marvel movie. And that's how I know I've made it. The day that a news article on Variety.com comes out saying Matthew Pelton is directing the next Avengers movie, that's the day this podcast will end. This podcast is a journey from someone currently in school all the way to directing Marvel. It's going to be a very long journey, and to kind of document the lessons I learned across the way and kind of things that I wish I knew beforehand and going into this ginormous undertaking that I'm trying to do and really trying to break into this industry, I figured I'd document the whole process. Hopefully this will be entertaining, but I'm also hoping it serves as a guide to someone who is also kind of in my shoes, who wants to break into Hollywood and the film industry and who's trying to become a director just like me. And everything I learned, all the failures I know I'm going to make and all the mistakes that I can confirm are going to happen, they will be broadcasted publicly to the world for my own ridicule. But hopefully it teaches somebody, you know, what not to do or what to do. And you know what? We're going to try to figure this thing out together. But together, we're going to direct Avengers like 7. What are they on right now? Endgame was 4, Doomsday, and Secret Wars are 5 and 6. So maybe not Avengers 7. Give me a couple years to get to Avengers. Maybe like Avengers like 8 or 9.
Hey everybody, this is Nick Warner. I am Matthew Pelton's creative partner and producer and cinematographer and editor, co-editor, all the fun things, and friend. I work very closely with Matthew, and I've worked on pretty much all of the projects that he's done since the beginning of college. We met through other friends at like a little picnic, it's 65 in Boston type situation, and everyone's outside and out of the dorms. So to kind of kickstart our creative partnership, Matthew approached me with the idea for River Fork Community College. I believe it was on a walk to a diner, South Street Diner in Boston. And we were talking about projects that we would want to kind of work on together. And he mentioned a few, and then we landed on River Fork as a concept. We kind of had a nice little back and forth about it, and we agreed that it would be a great first project to work on together. We didn't really have a script, and we were kind of new to the whole filmmaking in college thing. So we were, we had a really good concept, and we used the opportunity to try and figure out what this whole filmmaking process together would look like.
River Fork Community College was genuinely created out of sheer necessity. So I went to Emerson originally as a poetry major. And within the first semester, I was like, oh yeah, I fucked this up. I clearly like movies. And I noticed, I was watching YouTube one day and it was all film reviews, film content, film analysis. I talked to all my friends. Every time I talked to my friends, we were going to AMC. We were talking about movies. That was literally my whole life. I just didn't realize it somehow. So when it finally clicked that I chose the wrong major, and I'm like, oh, I gotta do it. This is what I do. Like, this is my life. This is the life I want to live, is film, not poetry. So I reached out to the school and I was like, hey, I know it's a little late. This was the beginning of my sophomore year at this point. I was like, but I really want to switch into film. And the school informed me that I couldn't do it. They're like, you're way too late. It's too late to switch majors. And no offense, you don't have the GPA to do it. You're not that good. I was like, well, what do you mean no? I'm like, I can't do poetry. I can't be stuck. Like, I'd rather transfer schools. Like, there's got to be something I can do. And the school was like, no, I'm sorry. You just don't meet the requirements. Like, you had your chance. You blew it, which is totally fair. I blew it. So I'm like, fuck, what do I do? Like, what do you do? I was literally stuck at Emerson. So I kept emailing and I was like, listen, I am so passionate about movie making and I know this is what I want to do. I made a mistake. I will email you every single day until you reconsider. I will not go away. And then for about 2 months, that's exactly what I did. I emailed the head of the film department. I emailed the head of like students. I emailed probably 4 people every single day. So just begging for them to reconsider. Not even accept me, just talk to me, reconsider, please, something. I was so fucking annoying. I think to this day, they probably still curse my name. But finally, I got a meeting with the head of the film department. I was like, let's go. And I go into the meeting and you could tell she was pissed. So I go into the meeting and she sits me down and she's like, what? What do you want? And I fully explain my situation. I'm like, I came here as poetry. Listen, my first year of college was 2020. It was the pandemic. It was a weird hybrid where we were on Zoom and in-person classes, and I never lived in a city. So it was really a huge readjustment. So my grades just weren't the best. But I realized I made a mistake. I'm begging you. I got to switch majors, man. I'm dying here. I'm dying in poetry. And my heart is in film. I know it is. It's always been there for years. Please. And she was like, okay, listen. The only way you can switch is if you prove yourself. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? She was like, I don't know. Good luck. Gave me no direction. I was like, okay. The fuck does prove yourself mean? Coming from the head of the film department, that's terrifying. Prove yourself? What do you do with that? So here's what I did. That semester, I decided I'm getting straight A's, which to a lot of people isn't impressive, but I'm not a very good student, so shut up. I'm joining every single film club, organization, event possible, and I'm going to make a short film just to show them I can do all of this, and this is how dedicated I am. And that is why River Fork was born.
So, as we made River Fork, it was one of those things where we established how we worked together as creative partners and kind of what our roles were on set, and then also how we communicate creatively. So that was very transformative in our personal and professional relationship because we kind of realized how we work together and how we would work together really going forward. We eventually became roommates after that first semester when we did River Fork, and we kind of, we spent a lot of time together, obviously living in the same suite at Emerson, and, we kind of just workshopped a lot of ideas. And one in particular, he came to me and essentially said, I want to create a 3-part story and kind of have like an interwoven theme throughout, even though none of the stories are actually technically related. So we started pre-production on A Triptych About Water.
So beautiful, beautiful River Fork went on to get into a couple film festivals. Not a ton, but for some reason, River Fork had like this weird cult following in Emerson where like, oh, listen, I showed my family River Fork. They did not like it at all. It's not everyone's sense of humor, but if you're into it, you are in. Especially Jonah Bowen, who was my roommate for a couple years there and also plays the main character, Dean Patrick Maez. He has a very unique sense of humor. And for River Fork, it's like 90% him. So if you don't find him funny, you are fucked. You will hate that movie. Okay, so if you start it and you're annoyed in the first 5 minutes, it's 34 minutes. Just shut that shit off. But if you like him, hey, go for it. It's River Fork. River Fork's fun. Next up was A Triptych About Water. That was the next short film. And the biggest challenge there was, can I go from comedy to drama? Also, can I write a script? Because River Fork was not written. That was all improvised. So, Triptych, can I write a script? Can I write good dialogue? The answer is kind of. And can I make a drama? The answer is also kind of. Triptych was a blast. I love making Triptych. It was definitely a big step and a scary step, and there was a lot of mistakes in that movie. Like, I will sometimes go back and watch Triptych and just hold my head in shame and be like, dude, what were you thinking? Like, how did you approve this? But you know what? It was definitely like a necessity, and it taught me a lot about how filmmaking actually works. Like, that was the first time we had like a shot list and a production schedule and actors that we didn't just pull from the street like 5 seconds before filming. So Triptych, I have a big special place in my heart for Triptych. And then from Triptych was kind of born Psychedelic Toad. Movie called Please Don't Look the Psychedelic Toad. The third short film out of 4. Again, I was at Emerson for 4 years, so I made 4 short films. That was kind of my goal. 4 years, 4 films. So Please Don't Look the Psychedelic Toad was the third one. And to be fair, I'm recording this before Nick records his parts, but it's kind of the best one. I hate to toot my own horn, but it's kind of the best one. Psychedelic Toad kind of fucking rocks.
I think Triptych was a learning experience for the both of us on really, truly how we work together in this more professional, scripted, kind of traditional filmmaking sort of way. We had some trials and tribulations, but it really made us stronger as creative partners, for sure. Our third film, Please Don't Lick the Psychedelic Toad. Crazy title, I know. And the reason I mentioned the title is because that was really all that was given to me the day that Matthew really approached me with this project. And he just said, I really like this title. Here's an article from, I think it was CNN. And he was like, I want to create a story around this title. I was like, that's such an interesting way of storytelling and filmmaking. Because a lot of times you have the story in your head and then you kind of craft the title around that story. But this is one of the only times I've ever seen it where someone crafted an entire story around a title. I thought that was super interesting. So I said, you know what? Let's do it. That's a cool title. Let's go. And for Psychedelic Toad, we had a lot of really interesting and upgraded visual effects that we had never done before. So getting to kind of work through that in pre-production with our VFX supervisor, it was really challenging and interesting, and having to kind of account for all of that on set was something that we had never done before. So that was really fun. And we also shot a lot of it in Connecticut, where we both were kind of raised. And that was super fun because we got to all kind of hang out at each other's houses and shoot locally. And that was a really nice experience because it got us out of the city and with our family again. And that was really, really special for me.
So Psychedelic Toad is kind of about a young relationship that you kind of see the rise and the fall of it. And as the relationship kind of starts to fall, the visuals of the movie kind of get all fucked up and get trippy. Coming up with that was really fun. And through Psychedelic Toad, once again, it was just a great learning experience. For example, with Triptych, I was not a huge fan of my dialogue. I think my dialogue very much comes across like how I speak, but not everyone talks the way I do. So you watch Triptych and you're like, yeah, this is just like a female Matthew Pelton and another Matthew Pelton just exchanging dialogue with each other, but they don't feel like individual characters. They just feel like me. Except part 3, which is just an Into the Wild ripoff. But for Psychedelic Toad, I really wanted to try to fix that problem. So I wrote a couple drafts of it, and then for the first time, and it's now become a repeated thing, I went with co-writers. I said, you know what? I want to boost up my dialogue. I want to take everything I was a little unhappy with, for lack of a better term, with Triptych and kind of improve upon it with Toad and just keep getting better. So I went to co-writers and I specifically chose 2 women. And I said, hey, one of the main characters in this movie is a woman. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not a woman. So if you could help me with her dialogue, that'd be awesome. And we sat down line by line and just changed a lot of it and just fixed it all up. And honestly, I'm very proud of that script. I think it actually turned out really well. And the shooting process, that was the one. Shooting Toto took 3 days in Connecticut. That was the one where I knew. I was like, oh, yeah, I definitely want to do this forever. I'm fully locked in. Like this, it was just such a great set, man. And my favorite part about it is just everyone was just into it and very collaborative, and everyone wanted to be there. And not that didn't happen with Triptych, but it was, you could tell I was new to the game and I didn't quite know what I was doing yet. And not obviously that I'm like great with Toad. Like I think I shot it when I was 20, so I don't nearly have enough experience to be super confident. But I started getting into that director groove, and I was like, oh yeah, like this is it. I want to be a director. So the last short film before we were fully caught up to today of the start of director and development, honestly, one of my favorite experiences I've ever had making anything in my life is Your Mama's Pie.
Your Mama's Pie. So that one was a very special project for Matthew, and he had always voiced wanting to go back to his high school to shoot something before we left college. And this was kind of the opportunity. It was our last like traditional film of our college career, and to kind of round things out, we wanted to, you know, go back to his roots of being a filmmaker, and that was super special to watch him get that experience. We also had an incredible, I mean, we've always had incredible cast and crews, but that specific cast and crew will go down in history as one of my favorites. I think it was just such a nice vibe on set, and everyone was all for it, even though the weather was absolutely not agreeing with us that week. And there were very, very, very late nights because we shot the whole thing at night, and lots of driving because we drove basically from Connecticut to New York every night. And, you know, it was exhausting and extremely rough because Matthew and I really only had like a month to put the whole thing together. And somehow, you know, by the skin of our teeth, we got it to work. And we made something really, I think, raw and honest and special and important to him. So I think that was definitely, again, with all of our projects, a different and unique experience, but one that I got to live vicariously through Matthew's eyes. And you know, it created something truly, truly special for both of us.
Your Mama's Pie was written, I was going into my senior year of Emerson, and at the time I didn't know if I was going to grad school or not. It was like application season. So there was a good chance that this was the end of my education journey. Like it was coming to an end and the real world was right around the corner, and it was really freaking me out. And I was just looking back on school and my experience and all the people I met along the way and the teachers and all, just, I don't know, I was just really reminiscing. And I was specifically thinking about Storm King because I lived at Storm King for 5 years. And I met so many just great people and teachers, and I just had the best time at Storm King. I really loved that place. And I remember thinking at one point at Storm King that I knew I was in, quote unquote, the good old days. You know how there's like that phrase, like you never know you're in the good old days till you're not in them anymore? I knew. I was walking around that campus like, dude, I know this will be the best times of my life. This school is awesome. Like, the school is special. So I was looking back, And I didn't get a proper graduation from Storm King because it was the pandemic and we kind of got our senior year shut down and all hell broke loose. So I was reminiscing and I was just really thinking about Storm King. So I was like, you know what? Like last time I was kind of stuck in a weird pickle. I just wrote a script and that ended up being Psychedelic Toad. So let me just write about it. And I wrote Your Mama's Pie. And then I went to a co-writer, the lovely Fiona Murphy, who, by the way, took a really bad script and made it amazing. she basically, I kind of feel bad even putting her as co-writer. Looking back, I should have put written by Matthew Pelton and Fiona Murphy. And then for the third draft, I went to Nicole Spirito, who's the other co-writer, and we kind of ended up merging a little bit of the second one. The first one added some more jokes, and then it became what it is today. But the whole point of that movie was I wanted to shoot it at Storm King. I was like, I won't make this movie unless it's at Storm King. That's the only way I'll do it. And after a lot of discussion, they let me do it. Which, by the way, has never happened. Storm King does not allow like productions on their campus unless you're like a student there. That's a little different. But they've been like, people have wanted to come in and direct movies there, alumni. They always say no. And for some reason, by the grace of God, God bless them at Storm King, they let me come back and make this movie. And because of that, it was just such a beautiful, like full circle experience of I was here making all these short stories and videos. And this is where it all started. And to come back at the end of my college experience and get to make something again at the same place. But I've learned all these things since, and I'm coming back to the same location. Oh, I loved it. Also, the cast and crew of that movie. Holy shit. Me and Nick made the best decision ever. We decided for the crew to go with mostly freshmen because all the people we knew were busy. That sounds mean. I'm sorry if you're part of the Mama's Pie crew and you're listening to this. All the Psychedelic Toad people were already on different projects. If you're an upperclassman, you don't really go out for stuff anymore. People just hit you up. So your whole year is filled. But freshmen are always looking for work. So we reached out to a bunch of freshmen. We had a little like table with a sign. I sat there for a couple hours just talking to people and we gathered a crew. And oh my God, we got so lucky because it was the best crew I've ever worked with. I love all my crews. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've had a great time with every set, but the Your Mama's Pie set, one, I just felt so comfortable, probably because it was Storm King and it's like a lot of people I've worked with before, like Nick and Nicole and Allie, people like that. But the crew, like everyone was just so passionate about it and everyone was just so excited to be there and to be at this. For them, it's just a random high school in a mountain. They have no connection to this place at all. But for some reason, they were equally as excited as I was. And just to have that energy across the board of everyone knowing that this was kind of something special, like this was a big moment. Even if it's the last thing I ever make in my filmmaking journey, this will always be a big moment for my life, the making of Your Mama's Pie. So because I got to go back to Storm King, I had this beautiful full circle as a senior, and I got to go back with just my favorite cast and crew ever. Your Mama's Pie, if you're going to watch any of the four, watch that one. Fuck it. Watch Your Mama's Pie. That's the best one. If you got like 17 minutes to kill, put that shit on. So you're all caught up. That's everything. That has been from the start. From Woody, I talked about the origins of my entire fucking family on the East Coast, all the way up to today, 2025, director and development. So we live in LA. We're getting our masters. And now it's time to break into this goddamn industry. And you know what? I said in the beginning, I'm going to say it again. We're doing this together and we're not going to stop until Avengers 9. I'm telling you it's going to happen. I think my first steps for the next couple weeks before the next episode is one, keep going to classes and just getting homework done, which again, not a great student. So easier said than done, okay? But one, network with all my LMU students because they are also trying to rise up in this industry. So good connections to have. And two, I'm going to try to get my asses on way more sets, okay? I've only been on sets I've directed. I've never worked as a PA. I've never worked as a grip, all the electrical shit. I've never done any of it. So even if it's a stupid student set or it's a big film set, we're going to get on way more sets together, all right? That's the goal. So we'll see what happens. But welcome to Director and Development.
Matthew's a great director, and I think he brings an incredible energy and enthusiasm and joy to the set that I really am truly blessed with having around, because I've been on plenty of sets where that atmosphere does not match what we've done on our projects. And kind of our goal with everything that we've done is to kind of keep everyone in a happy mood and have a really positive experience and walk away really pleased with the time that they've spent, because things can be great pieces of art and not be a miserable time on set, and that's kind of been our philosophy. So I praise him for that. I think truly the only piece of advice I would give going forward, and I've mentioned this to him a few times, is to really dive into the deep end of like the technical side or like the other sides of the industry. And I think he's doing that now with, grad school and all the classes that he's taking. But I think it's truly important as a director, at least from what I've seen so far, to have a sort of baseline knowledge about all the other departments and all of the other kind of players on the team. Because if you have that understanding, then you can develop a language to interact with them and understand how complicated some of the asks are. Not that he's, made super complex asks, but it's a really good background to have in order to communicate with every member of the cast and of the crew, and to have a true understanding of how the team functions as a whole. And truly, outside of that, I mean, keep doing what you're doing, man. I really think that the passion that you have for directing and your technique as a writer, and truly the want to be great and do something great and to just keep getting better really impresses me and makes me want to keep working with you. So truly, hats off, and I'm excited to, keep working on the projects that we have in the works now.
This has been a Quaywood audio production.